Hey everyone, welcome back to another incredible episode of The Gathering Movement. I'm here today with Jonathan Glass, and I cannot wait for us to talk about the magic of Chinese medicine for mind, body, and soul. Welcome, Jonathan.
Oh, thanks for having me so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to dive into this topic. It's something that I have ventured into personally, this and Ayurveda myself, and I'd like to just start off by having you share how this work empowers someone to be the leader of their life.
Great question. Wow. So the first thing that comes to me is that in Chinese medicine, the heart channel, or the heart, is known as the emperor. Every organ it's called an official. That's what has this military kind of thing. Excuse me, sorry for that. And the heart is the official of the emperor or the empress of the body, mind, and soul. So when the heart is happy, and when all the different organs and meridians are like the servants of the heart, and the heart is the emperor. So if all of us are vibrating optimally, and if the heart is strong, and if all the other organs and meridians and energy centers in the body are performing properly, then there's a sense of, you could say, peace, harmony, empowerment, and a sense of that person being the best they can be as themselves. It's not necessarily about being powerful in other arenas of life that they're not destined to be or gifted in being, but it's about being, the best you can be as a person. And acupuncture and Chinese medicine has a beautiful view of how to really enhance the person's innate ability to function optimally on a physical, mental. We use in 5-element Chinese acupuncture, we just use it on the body, mind, spirit level. And so, that's really what it's all about, is harmonizing those three levels and optimizing our energy to its greatest capacity.
I've always been fascinated by more of the Eastern medical systems, the Eastern philosophy when it comes to healing. It just made sense to me personally because everything is connected in our body. So why wouldn't we understand it from this holistic perspective? Mm-hmm. So I'd love to hear from you how you entered this world of acupuncture, of Chinese medicine, of Ayurveda.
Sure. So, real simply, I think there's a couple things. One is, when I was a kid, I went to summer camp every year, and the counselors used to bribe the kids. And there was, by the way, with all the stuff going on in the world around sexual abuse, there was absolutely none of that. But they would bribe the kids. You rub my shoulders, and I'll bring you an ice cream in the middle of the night when they come out after partying with their friends, which they almost never did. They only did it once or twice. But honestly, I found at the age of 9 that a lot of the counselors were coming to me and saying, "Wow, you're really good at this." So, I would have a few of the counselors coming to me because I was gifted at it. And then that summer, I injured my arm playing baseball, and I was in a lot of pain, and I went to the infirmary, and it turned out that the nurse at the infirmary knew shiatsu. I mean, who knew in 1969 that she knew shiatsu? And she sat me in a chair and just worked on me for probably 5 minutes. And I was like 99% better in 5 minutes. It just completely blew my mind. I had no clue that was even possible. So these are like little seeds that happened. In the meantime, I had really bad allergies growing up. I was very sensitive to dairy, and I didn't know that. And so during college, I was exploring diet and yoga and meditation, and I changed my diet. I figured out, changing my diet was a huge thing, and that changed my life. So, I played soccer, I played hockey, but I was a kid who was always blowing his nose and coughing every year, and I was on antibiotics once or twice a year just because I had no clue. And, not to mention my parents smoked when I was very young. That probably didn't help too much. So, one thing led to another, and I got into meditation. I just started finding out pretty early that there were other ways of doing things that really were meaningful and really helpful. And it really percolated my interest. So I decided to get into, I was always intrigued by acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and started getting treatments, and one thing led to another. I decided to study it.
Yeah. It's always like we're given these little breadcrumbs, and then we choose whether to like pick them up or not. And then sometimes those breadcrumbs lead to like the whole piece of bread, and then the whole loaf, and then, all the bread in the world. So it sounds like you found that.
Yeah, I just kind of followed the breadcrumbs, and something I was really interested in.
Fascinating. For the people who don't know anything about Chinese medicine or acupuncture, can you give us like the 101 rundown of what this is and how it works?
I'll try. Yeah. One thing is, it's really important to think about, I think, is that the paradigm of ancient Chinese medicine, or we call it now traditional Chinese medicine, or Ayurveda from India. It's a very different paradigm at looking at life. But say if a wheel and the center is the center of the wheel, and then there's the spokes, you can often get to the same place using different modalities. Even sometimes you can get there using conventional Western medicine if it's done appropriately, in the direction that you want to go. But in Chinese medicine and in Ayurveda from India, it's a very much nature based. It's really, if you can imagine the sages of the past really observing nature very keenly, and really observing what goes on inside their bodies. And remember, back then, some of these guys meditated a lot. They were sitting by a river, they were sitting by the mountains. It was a very peaceful environment, and they were introspecting and through the process of doing different things. But there's a way to intuitively understand reality. And in many cases, what's quite amazing is that there's almost nothing I've ever found that's been part of traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurveda that Western science has proven to be inaccurate. I've never found anything, honestly, where you just say, what, that's just wrong. I just haven't found it. So basically, now we'll get simple. We think about it that the body is electrical. They call it chi or prana. And the organ systems have electrical pathways that run up and down the body that feed energetic information to all the cells, to the nerve, to all the tissues of the body. And those electrical pathways work harmoniously, or meant to work harmoniously with each other. So the liver pathway is meant to work with the heart pathway. So in acupuncture, we can actually, by feeling 3 different positions on the pulse, that's the heart, that's the liver, that's the kidney, we can actually feel what's the energy like going through that meridian. And if that pathway is different from another pathway, if one is weaker, one is stronger, the whole goal is to bring harmony and balance, so that our system is communicating well with itself. And by raising the communication that's happening in the meridians and the cells and the nervous system and the tissues of the body and the brain, then everything functions better. So in one sense, you could say acupuncture or Chinese medicine, or I lump in Ayurveda because it has many similarities. It's really there to enhance our innate ability to function at its best. It's not gonna force anything, but it's gonna raise the body and the mind's ability to function optimally. So that's kind of how that works.
Great definition. I was with you, so I think that was perfect. I found myself to these ancient practices when I was on my own healing journey from Lyme's disease. So going to the acupuncturist and then starting to understand Ayurveda and then studying Ayurveda and yoga together as they are sister sciences. And just as you're saying, I learned that everything is supposed to be working harmoniously. And when something's not working harmoniously, we can just take a look at the whole body and see what's out of whack. What would be your suggestion for people right now who are struggling or maybe feel like they're not empowered with their health? Where can Chinese medicine really play a role in their empowerment to come back to their wholeness, back to their harmonious nature with their body?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, if you can find a practitioner, and it's not difficult to find. I mean, there's a lot of good practitioners around the world, and around the country or whatever. And some they have different styles or whatever. And yes, it's nice if you can find someone you resonate with, and maybe has somewhat of a similar perspective on things on some level. But I mean, what's important is that they're qualified and they're good people and they're good healers. So when somebody can read your energy quite well, and again, an acupuncturist is generally quite trained or reasonably trained at reading the pulse. And just doing that means that you are being seen energetically. And I make an analogy like if you have a friend that really gets you, healing automatically happens just by somebody really hearing you speak and really getting what you're saying. There's some people that take place. So when the acupuncturist or the practitioner feels a pulse and they know, they have a sense of what's not working, what's out of balance. And then there's all these correspondence. So say the liver's way out, the pulse is very, that could indicate either toxicity in the liver or stress in the liver. It could be emotional, it could be anger or suppressed feelings happening. And if the practitioner can actually see that, then it's a very efficient way to help get someone back on track, to actually help them, one, feel better almost immediately. That's one thing about acupuncture. It's quite remarkable where somebody can walk in. I have people come in all the time and just, I have talk about certain blocks and I educate my patients. And they actually say to me, I hope I have this block because I feel terrible, and then oftentimes they're right as they get to know themselves. And we treat it and they're like, oh my God, I feel better. I feel like myself. I feel okay. Even sometimes I feel fantastic, So, and then the thing is when we find out that we can be really suffering and 10 minutes later be suffering significantly less, or maybe even not even suffering, it's really remarkable. So it's almost like for many people, it's a quantum shift in their understanding of how healing happens and what's possible. I mean, most people are so linear. Like I had a patient recently who well, this is not a political statement at all, but she had a vaccine, and with a few days later, I will not make any comment here unless you ask me about that, but her energy, she was an older woman, her energy just crashed, and she had shortness of breath. She went to her doctor, they tested her, and for the first time in her life, her thyroid numbers were wackadoodle. So I said, well, let's do a treatment. She says, well, it's not going to do anything because my thyroid numbers are off. I mean, that's what it is. My thyroid's not right. And they found little things on the thyroid. I said, well, let's do a treatment anyway. And we did a treatment, and turns out she felt a lot better. Now, did it fix her thyroid numbers? We don't know yet. Maybe not, but she felt a lot better. So even if somebody has a quote symptom, we've had people who had arthritis, their necks are riddled with arthritis, and then they go back a year later to get another scan, and there's nothing different. Hasn't gotten worse, but there's nothing different, but yet the neck pain is 70% less because the body's functioning better even in the context of certain stressors. So yeah, it's an amazing system. It really is. after all these years, it blows my mind more and more every year, honestly. It really does.
Incredible. It's amazing. And it's amazing that you can be part of this healing journey with them, and also just empowering them that their body is whole, like they are already in their wholeness, but maybe something is just a little bit off. You help them facilitate the healing.
Right.
Incredible.
Exactly.
Incredible.
Yeah, that's what it is.
What is your big vision with your work, your center? I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Sure. So, I'm still actively seeing patients, and I'm pretty busy doing that. I also teach a class called the Total Life Cleanse. It's a program, and I wrote a book. It's over there somewhere. I don't have it right here, but it's a 400-page book. Everybody told me not to write a big book, but I couldn't help myself. But it's really includes all kinds of wisdom and knowledge from Ayurveda and Chinese medicine and modern nutrition. And it's about how to do a safe, natural, effective cleanse. And I'm very passionate about that, because the cleanse is not just, although it is, about cleansing the liver and the kidneys and the colon and all that, and that's important. It really is important. In fact, Ayurveda suggests that we do at least one cleanse a year, ideally even two, to reset and release some toxins and also reset our habits. But what really is very inspiring is really helping people make quantum shifts in their diets and how they live and how they take care of themselves. I'll give you a quick story today. There was a guy who's 82, and his kidney numbers were so high that they basically said, you're in kidney failure, you're going to die, unless you go on dialysis. He did dialysis twice, and he felt so horrible, he didn't want to do it. And everybody's like, well, it's going to happen. He said, I don't want to do it. I said, okay. That's what the family said, okay. But we got him on some very powerful Chinese herbs, and he started doing acupuncture, and he changed his diet radically. And this guy was a truck driver for much of his life, and there can be healthy truck drivers, don't get me wrong, but he was not one of them. And he's on a 99.9 plant-based alkaline diet, and for kidney disease, that's a very good diet to be on. Very, low, almost no animal protein, because the kidney is very burdened, and already his numbers are better. And he's so happy that he's bragging that, yeah, they told me I should be dead a month ago. And the doctors don't know what to do with it. But his life, he's 82, and he told me today he wants to live to 92. Where a month ago, he was given up for dead. And, he's taking his life in his own hands, in the sense that he's deciding to eat really well. And his son is helping him, he's getting support, but he's the one doing it. And that's really a beautiful thing when somebody, makes those choices himself, and in the beginning, yes, gets the support they need to make that quantum shift and realize that, the quality of what they're putting in your body, the food, and also the quality of putting in their mind and their consciousness, that it really matters. And then people go from here to here. It's a quantum shift. It's not always this very slow, gradual thing. That can happen too, and that can be a good thing. But a lot of times it's quantum. People go like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much better I feel. So then it's like a moment of a window of opportunity to say, you know what, I kind of want to live here for most of my life rather than live here like I have been. But they've had the experience of it. So that, I'm going on a bit here, but that really excites me a lot. I love being able to support people in that way.
I love hearing these types of stories. So continue on. What I think is so important, and really this is why I started this interview series, is to amplify voices of people who want to empower others.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's what this is all about, empowering them to choose their health, to realize what they put into their body matters, realize what they consume, information, media, friendship-wise, lifestyle-wise, does matter.
Absolutely. Totally. Well, I love that, that aspect about it, that, your desire to want to empower people. Because, even in Chinese medicine, there's levels of treatment. And the first thing is diet. The last, or the fifth or sixth thing, is acupuncture and herbs. The first is diet. Then there's exercise. In their tradition, it was qigong or tai chi, or in India, yoga. So there's things that we do ourselves. And then the acupuncture and the herbs are meant to nourish that and support that. Or if somebody's really, sick, then yes. But in our culture now, the truth is, because there's so much insanity in the environment, and so many issues with food, and so many strange habits that our culture has taken on, I would say acupuncture is very, very important. Getting someone to put their hands on you is really, really important, because it can make a quick quantum shift, and it inspires people to then take care of themselves. Like, for instance, I have some people come in and I'm like, wow, you are alert, you're sensitive to wheat, to dairy, to sugar, you have candida, you have this, you have so many things. And you know what? You could take about 13 supplements and herbs right now. I mean, their body tests whether it resonates with all those things. Or you can, for the next 2 weeks, do your best to eliminate this, this, and this, and this. And then let's check you out again. And it always blows my mind that if, for those people that really make some changes, their herbal protocol recommendations are usually cut by 75%. So people can save a lot of money, if they take better care of themselves.
It's a great reminder, because food is so accessible to us.
Yes.
Food is, we eat it every single day, and it can start with something as simple as that. As we wrap up this interview, what would be your kind of final words of wisdom to that person who is looking to reconnect with their body, mind, body, soul?
It's a great question. Well, first of all, know that it's a valid, real, important, beautiful, virtuous desire to want to do that. Just to have the desire to do that is a really, really good thing. And it's not that it's frowned upon in our society, but it certainly isn't. It isn't on the front burner. And from this perspective, it is on the front burner. And to put that desire on the front burner of your life is valid and real. And I would say that by the time God willing, someone reaches a ripe old age, that they're going to be very glad that they put it on the front burner, as opposed to waited their whole life and then said, oh man, maybe I should have considered this, and that, as being important. So it's really important. So one, the desire itself will attract the right teachers, the right books, the right practitioners, the right healers, the wisdom that you're looking for. It will come. So, and then just be open. I mean, if you're inclined to want to try something, if you're like, well, acupuncture is fascinating to me and I've heard it can help, then just go for it. Go to if you don't know who's good, talk to some friends who maybe have gone, or if there's really nothing like that, I always tell people to go to their local health food store. And oftentimes people there, the owners there will know, the people in the community that can be helpful. But just go for it. And our lives are worth it. And, the body, mind, spirit connection is a real thing. And when we remove the obstacles to the harmony of body, mind, spirit, then great things can happen. So I would just say go for it and have the desire. To me, in one sense, I think what's coming through right now is really that the desire is a very valuable thing, and it's an important thing to go with it.
I love that. That is beautiful. The desire is noble. The desire is truly noble.
Exactly. It's noble, yeah, and important and noble. Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for being here today, and I'd love for you to share how people can find you, how they can purchase your book, how they can come to your center. Let us know all those details.
Okay, thank you. So I have a website. It's called healingessencecenter.com. And for my book, you can go there. You can go also to totallifecleanse.com. And my phone number, 978-369-9228. And also, my book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And that's called The Total Life Cleanse, a 28-day program to detoxify and nourish body, mind, and soul. So,
Awesome. Thank you so much.
It was really fantastic questions. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was awesome to learn from you and just hear your perspective on this really important topic, in my opinion. So thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for the work that you do in the world.
And thank you too.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys so much for supporting this series and this channel and this podcast, everything that we're doing here, which is all about empowering each other and gathering together to do so. That is the movement. Thanks so much, and we'll be back tomorrow.